Hello Booktube, it's Leah Cooper here, and today I wanted to do something a little different. So in British Booktube, I've seen a lot of people doing this thing. Simon of Savage Reads has a perfect title for it. He calls it a cuppa and a catch-up, where, you know, he drinks a cup of tea and he catches you up with what's going on in his life. And I don't want to drink tea because it's summer in the United States and it's hot, and no. I don't usually film when I'm drinking coffee. I film at night a lot of times, and I really wanted a glass of wine today, which I have. So I'm calling this my inaugural book chat happy hour. We'll see if I ever do one again, but that's what we're going with today. So I entreat you to go get a glass of whatever you like to drink, whether it's wine or it's beer or it's cocktail or it's a glass of water. Go grab it and meet me back here. So I filmed the intro to this video, and then I decided there wasn't enough wine in my glass, and I even went and filled up and came back. So let's get started. Since I posted my mid-month wrap-up, which I will link above if you're interested, I talk about Where in the Nightingale, I talk about Stieg Larsson's writing style, I talk about Down Among the Sticks and Bones. Go check that out. It's kind of long, but, you know, mini reviews, so that's why it's long. But since then, I've only actually read one book, and that is Call Me By Your Name by Andre Osman. I finished it earlier today. It was devastating, but I knew it was going to be. It was surprising in some ways. It was expected in others. It was beautiful. It was a gorgeous book. He has a newer release that also deals with, I think, various gay love affairs that I'm also going to definitely check out, because I quite enjoyed his writing style. It's a little stream of consciousness, and at some points it definitely reminded me a little bit of Ali Smith, though less stream of consciousness than she can sometimes be. So if you like her books, you might consider checking out Call Me By Your Name, and if you haven't read it already. And it just left me craving a glass of Italian wine. I had to go out and buy a bottle of Chianti. No Hannibal jokes, please. But that's all of the book updates I have to talk about. The next two things I need to read are both arcs, and so, you know, gosh, they're both books that are coming out at the beginning of September, but they will have their own reviews as soon as I read them. I'm kind of making this video, I won't lie, because I really want to make a teeny tiny little announcement. I kind of teased it on my Twitter, but I want to make it slightly more official here. I'm not going to go into ton of details because it's like real early, but low-key, a book I wrote has been accepted by a small indie press to be published, and it's going to be coming out next summer, and I'm super excited because one of my goals this year, like one of my career goals, was to work on diversifying my writing portfolio. So I self-publish paranormal, romancy, mystery novels, and I've been doing that for a few years. And yeah, I still have a couple of books that I will definitely be self-publishing over the next couple of years because they're in a series that I have going. But I like the idea of not having all your eggs in one basket, so I want to work on diversifying. And my first step towards that goal was to put a book out with an indie press. So I'm not gonna say who yet, because I kind of want to see when they announce it first, and then I will be like, yes, and acknowledge it, etc. The book that's going to be coming out, what can I say about it? It's going to be kind of a paranormal romance novel. The protagonist is a necromancer professor, and basically the shit hits the fan in his life and everything goes wrong. I basically wrote the story over the spring to cheer myself up, because I just wanted to write something fun. When I have more details, I will definitely be talking about them, and yeah. I'm just really excited. This is the first book that I've tried to actually sell to a publisher. So to actually find a home for it pretty soon out of the gate feels like such a relief, because I was really concerned that my goal to diversify my portfolio would take possibly years. I was just like really concerned. When I sat down to do this, I was kind of thinking like, I should make this like a discussion video where I discuss things, but other people are so much better at discussing things than I am. Like, they have really cogent arguments and points that they're trying to make. They script themselves, and I'm just like, glass of wine, let's chat about stuff. What stuff? I don't know. Like, we could talk about those articles that have been coming out about YA Twitter that are just, they make my head hurt a little bit. You know, the first one condemning YA Twitter and calling it super toxic reeked of bitterness, because, you know, a white author wrote a book that people who value diversity didn't care for, and got their panties in a bunch, that a bunch of people were like, I'm not going to read this book or buy this book, and this is why. And the thing about it is it kind of brings me back to, for example, that author a few years ago who stalked a reviewer who gave her a bad review and then wrote an article about it. Authors behaving badly, yo. Like, criticism is not new. I think it's just people who, in a very privileged social position, suddenly being criticized by people who have, for hundreds of years, been silenced, i.e. minority groups, whether that's people of color or the queer community. And they're just getting real up in arms about being criticized by these people who previously did not have the voice to criticize them with. And frankly, it smacks of internalized racism. Sorry, not sorry. That's how you come across. So that's my response to the person who wrote that Vice article. I thought the Bustle article was a good rejoinder. Can YA Twitter, Booktube, whatever, be a little toxic? Maybe. Sometimes they do like to pile on to stuff, but usually they have a reason for why they're piling on, because usually the books that they're piling onto have something in them that it's not the first book where like that stereotype or that injustice has been perpetuated on the page. It's been done over and over and over and over again, and there's a point at which you just get sick of seeing your own representation done so poorly by people, by, you know, cis straight white people. And so you get mad. And so I don't blame them. And like, it's not like a lot of these books don't warrant criticism. A lot of times they do. But on the other end of things, why Booktube and Twitter can be extremely forgiving for things that hurt marginalized groups too. And they'll just blindly ignore them. It's really hard to be on Booktube as a queer person and watch people talk about how they wish there was more LGBTQ plus representation in books while sitting in front of a shelf of Brandon Sanderson novels. At least I don't see people praising Orson Scott Card. Otherwise, I would lose it. But Sanderson's not any better. Some people will point out there's like a possibly lesbians in some of his newer works. But Sanderson's anti-queer blog post is still online, which means he has never retracted it. He's never felt ashamed of the things that he said. So either he just doesn't give a shit, or he still believes the things that he said. And B, historically speaking, lesbians are non-threatening to cishet men of religious persuasions. There's a reason that you could get away with a Boston marriage, but you'd be arrested for sodomy in, you know, late 18th, early 20th century America. My point is, you know, having a homophobe put queer characters in a book, like lesbians in a book, doesn't necessarily absolve him of things he said in the past. So, you know, we've got that. We've also got Sarah J. Maas, who's, I can't even read her, but, you know, she slut shames, and she has, in her latest Wings and Ruin, she has like some real scary ace representation in her book, just like really uncomfortable and offensive ace representation, and you don't hear anyone talk about it. I think that the YA community is a real weird mix of being good about calling out shit in books, and just, if they're your problematic fave, you just ignore it. That's kind of how I feel. I was not intending to talk about that, but I feel like possibly it's been weighing on me a little bit, and it's a little timely. At the end of the day, you know, I think of that scene in The Raven where the first guy who dies is a literary critic. And it's not just that he's a literary critic of Poe, it's that Poe is also a literary critic, and they're literary critics in like competition with one another. Literary criticism is nothing new. It's necessary, sometimes it's unnecessary, but it's been around forever. It's just that, you know, white dudes aren't exclusively doing it or being paid to do it. You know, there are much more diverse voices in the field now. And so they're going to call you out on your bullshit. And as an author, I firmly believe you can write whatever you want. But people are allowed to criticize whatever they want. You both have to live with it. I'm a big fan of, if you don't like something in a book, if you don't want to see something, a stereotype or a trope or whatever, use your purchasing power to say no. Just don't buy it. Because I do think that there is a relationship here between the reviewer and the reader, right? You don't have to read everything for yourself to form an opinion of it. One of the points of reviews is so that you can sift through the content that's available and make educated decisions about what you want to consume. And so it's more important as a reader to pick reviewers that you trust, or whose opinions on things you trust, or whose opinions or tastes line up with yours, so that you can make those informed decisions. You know, Francina Simone has made some very interesting and eloquent videos on this topic. She tends to fall on the side of everyone should read everything to make their own opinions. And that's fine. But you know what? Life's too short to read every single book. You have to make decisions about what you're going to read and what you're not going to read as a reader or as a reviewer. And so personally, I think there comes a point when you have to say, you know what, I just don't have time to read any of these books that have or possibly have problematic content in them, because there's tons of other things that I could be reading instead. There's tons of other things by own voices or diverse perspectives, or that are writing diverse perspectives that I could be reading instead. I don't have to read everything to form an opinion. So yeah, I think there's a little bit more of a middle ground than what she necessarily advocates for. People review for a reason. Reviews exist for a reason, and it's to educate other potential readers, to let them know what's in the book. People who don't care about what's in the book, or who don't care about the content or whatever, they don't read reviews. But the people who do read reviews that you're making those reviews for, they're reading them, you're making them, they're reading them for a reason, and it's to be educated, it's to make an informed decision about what they choose to spend their time and their money on. If that weren't the case, then what is the point of reviews? There isn't any. So I don't think we should totally condemn people for saying, hey, you know, I read your review, I saw the things you pointed out, that does not sound like something I want to support financially with my money or my time. I'm going to take a pass. There's nothing wrong with that. Man, there's one more thing I want to talk about, and it's consumerism on Booktube. And it's sort of tangentially related to this, but I think I'm going to save it and just do another wine chat later on and talk about it. So yeah, because I have a lot of thoughts on consumerism, book hauls. I have a lot of thoughts on it, and it's really interesting to watch kind of the way Booktube sways back and forth, whether they're pro or against buying books. It's really, and book hauls. Like, it's really fascinating, but I think I'm going to save that. So anyways, Let me know what you think of the 2 articles that recently came out on Vice and Bustle and YA Twitter. Let me know what you think about anything that I said. It's fine. I'll chat with you down in the comments. I will hunt up a couple of other videos on these topics and link them down below if I remember to. And yeah, I'll see you guys in my next video. Bye.